Okay, I think we are live. If you guys can hear us, you can comment something in the chat. But if not, then also comment. Uh, so, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Really depends where you're coming from. And welcome to this webinar. Today we are going to deep dive into phishing. This is going to be interesting. We have here an amazing panel that will introduce itself in a few minutes. But we're going to talk about technology, psychology, behavior, and everything in between, which is a lot. So with that said, let's start with round of introductions. Let's start with you, Amy. Do you want to, yeah,
Sure.
quick?
So first of all, thank you for inviting me to this panel. It's an honor.
Sure.
So my name is Amy Deerwester. I'm an associate director of information security within the financial area of the world. And just a real quick disclaimer. So here today, my opinions are my own and do not necessarily reflect those of my employer. So with that disclaimer out of the way, I'll pass it on to Michael.
Awesome. Thank you. Also, great to be here. My first Wizer webinar, so very, very excited. My name is Michael Snape. I lead the email security efforts in the iInvest company, specifically our product Inbox Guard. I was the founder of that product, passionate about everything email phishing and security. I think the only person more passionate than me is Gabby. So very excited for this. And
Equally passionate. Cool, thank you very much. And Dr. Stein, you've been with us on several webinars. So for those who don't know you or are the first time here, why don't you introduce yourself?
Thanks, Gabby. It's great to be back on a Wizer webinar. I'm Alexander Stein, founder of Dolus Advisors based in New York. And I'm here to contribute my expertise in human decision-making and behavior and to shine a light on the human dimensions of cybersecurity.
Great. So let's start with actually something that I read recently that happened last year. So I was reading about a case where I think his name was Patrick Hillman. He is the communication officer of Binance, and he claimed that criminals basically used some of his videos because he's posting a lot online and stuff like that, and they created a deep fake of him, and they reached out to investors, and his deep fake got on Zoom meetings, like 20 minutes Zoom meetings, offering basically scam investments, and people fell for it. So, which is crazy, you know, where we are today in this world. So my question is, like, does this AI, deep fake, voice cloning, all of those technologies, does that make any difference in the way we handle phishing, in your opinion? Is it like, have what we've done so far, first of all, is it working? And two, do we need to adjust? And what do you think about it in general? I don't know, anybody here wants to tackle this first?
I'm happy to jump in,
Yeah.
first here.
Thank you very much.
The first thing is, I mean, do you blame the people that fell for this? I don't. You know, employees, our colleagues, our friends, they're being faced with these kind of increasingly sophisticated attacks every day. I mean, one of these people on the call could be a deep fake, and I wouldn't know. I think it's incumbent upon us to empower our employees, our colleagues, our friends in whatever way that is going to be most effective. And often that isn't just one way. We're seeing a multi-layered approach is best, education, awareness, training, but a technological aspect to that as well. And it's not going to stop at deep fakes. You know, tomorrow there's going to be something else that's going to be tripping us up. And as the good guys, we have to be ahead of these kind of attacks.
Yeah. Dr. Stein, you specialize in, you know, people's behavior. What do you think people need to watch out now? Like, because we've learned by now, my guess is that most people have heard about phishing at least. It's not a totally new thing for them. Maybe the term social engineering, but phishing in general, I think most people are aware of that. So if they're aware of that, why are they still clicking? Why are they still doing, why are they still falling for these scams?
How can you not? Particularly when it's convincing. We're talking about different forms of fraud. Deepfakes are an imposter fraud that exploit technology rather than somebody showing up in a costume. And when it's done effectively, people will be deceived. There are very few defenses against really effective deception. Fraud is perhaps the world's oldest profession. So to Michael's point, empowering everyone, not just the workforce, and certainly not blaming them for falling prey to effective deceptions, is inordinately important. And I'm sure that we're going to cover all the different facets of it in this conversation. Just to reinforce my framing premise in this space is that cybersecurity is a human issue that involves technology, not a technology problem that can be solved technocratically.
Yeah, I hope more people understand that security is for protecting people. It serves them. So Amy, we spoke earlier about culture, right?
Yeah.
I guess it has to do a lot, this blame game of, we see that often where people unfortunately, and that's why also I think victims sometimes are afraid to come forward because they just feel bad uh, falling for a scam where in reality it can happen to anyone. I don't think a lot of people realize that. So what do you can do you think in terms of culture to help address that problem?
So culture is the way to address the problem, right? Because if your organization has a culture of, blaming people, then they're not going to, it's not going to be a good situation, right? So like earlier we were talking about, actually I'm kind of going to go off a little bit here. We were talking about phishing and, reporting phishes. And so like in those cases, like if the person reports a phish, or it's actually it's spam or something else, right? And if your response, whether it be your automated response or your security team's response, is negative in any way, that's going to dissuade your users from doing it again. So we need to be mindful as a security team that we need to have that customer service face when we're dealing with people and make sure that we don't make them feel unintelligent if they do something wrong. Another thing is like for people besides just phishing, like I guess it is phishing too, but like if you did something, like you clicked on something and then you're like, oh wait, I think it was wrong. You have to have a culture where that person can feel comfortable reporting that and not worry that they're going to get fired because I clicked on a link. Right? So it's a top-down thing. And if you don't have it, you're not going to get those behaviors that you want. And I think as far as culture goes, that's the thing we need to focus on. Like, what behaviors do we want our people to have, and how do we enable that?
Yeah, I've heard. I've been talking to a lot of employees in general, and some of the feedback that I got from people that where companies are abusing phishing simulation, for example, and they also blame them for not reporting. So for them, it's sort of a game back. So a lot of employees are just reporting everything. You know what? I'll spam the IT team. So it becomes a game. The IT team wants to like catch me. You know what? I'm gonna spam them. I'm gonna basically every email possible I'm going, and they go to their spam folder and they're starting to like report. It's sort of like it goes back to this culture thing, and something that you said earlier with, why doing something, because if it becomes a battle between IT, security, and employees, and there's two sides, sort of like, because it's very easy to abuse some of those tools and to like, play a game here and see who you caught. So, especially if you reward on the wrong things. So it's easy to see how people are creative in a way that you haven't thought about it.
That's, I think, a mistake that security professionals, as not everyone, but like as an industry, we kind of make that mistake that we assume that the users are dumb. They're a lot smarter.
Yeah.
than they're often given credit for. So that's something to be aware of. Yes.
Yeah. So in my original post, I spoke about, Fish GPT, I called it. And Michael sort of like a little bit of, Michael is also a partner of ours, from IronVest. And that sort of like caught me, created, that thought about Fish GPT. And I wanted to hear a little bit about, how does technology can work with people together to empower them? Because again, there's probably no one solution, but I think technology can empower people. So without going too much deep into the product, we can do another live, meeting about it where you can deep dive. But I did like, so we have like email gateways, they try to stop, right? But then still things flow in, right? So like we in security awareness deal with the emails that do go through, right? At the end of the day, that's sort of what we are tackling here today. So I was interested, sort of like how can AI be used to maybe read those emails and let people know, hey, you know what, maybe be careful here. Sort of like, yeah.
Yes, I mean, I loved your post. It was exactly speaking the language that we speak. And Fish GPT, which is your idea, I mean, it's already being used. Like the attackers are using it not just to draft the actual emails themselves, but to create full phishing campaigns. And it's really relevant today because what you said is completely right. There's no one solution. You can't just rely on technology. You can't just rely on the human aspect either. It comes together, and solutions that bring the human and the technology together, those are the ones that are really effective or the most effective in protecting the organization. So for example, you get phishing attacks that are Fish GPT'd and using generative AI, whatever the case is, that are super sophisticated, that to the naked eye, you would not know that that is a fake email. And technology can step in there. A product like Inbox Guard can step in and say, even though this looks completely legitimate, just know that in the headers, in the servers that this bounced through, whatever the case is, this email is not real or this email is suspicious. So it has a huge role to play, as does the educational aspect, as does speaking about cultures. Same thing. It's like as company leadership wanting to emphasize culture, what tools are we giving our employees? How are we presenting this? Are we presenting this as something that we are giving you to protect you, or are we presenting this, like you said, as a game where we're trying to catch you out? And it's just going to get more and more difficult for employees. So having those layers, having the technological layer in there, that's just absolutely critical.
Cool. So another question, this is for you, Alexander. Do you think that maybe we're missing some kind of skills in the cybersecurity team in order to deal with behavior? Because we're talking about, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to build culture, you need to like change behavior, but like most of the people in cybersecurity are, very technical. Many of them, like, is talking about it enough and they're like, okay, we can do this, or what are we missing? Like what other skill sets do you think we need? And maybe we don't, or maybe we need to work with other departments. I don't know. What's your take on this in order to gain that security culture or changing behaviors?
So the answer to your question, are there skills missing? My answer is yes. What's your next question?
Which skills?
Yeah.
What type of role? What needs to change in the diversity, I would say, of the security team in order to be able to handle, this culture and behavior change?
It's a huge question. So let me give a few answers. One is to start building out awareness within the security domain that the focus of that kind of work has been inadequate. And there are a ton of ways, including culture building, which means a lot of different things globally, as well as a lot of different things within each institution, to make a difference there. in terms of trying to affect behavior change, it's enormously important to recognize that there's often a gap between cognitive understanding and awareness and behavior. So people always do things that they know they shouldn't, but they do it anyway. And so, the very definition of a negligent insider is someone who makes a mistake. So if you have a system that is constructed to have some single point of failure or some hyper vulnerability as a consequence of a mistake, that's not to be put the foot or the hand or the mind of a particular user. That's a flaw in the system. So there do need to be shock absorbers that allow for human behavior and misbehavior. I think one of the other things that would be enormously helpful industry-wide is to create information security that is multidisciplinary by design. In other words, there should be specialists in human behavior of some form or another, and not just somebody kind of consultant. No disrespect to anyone in HR by saying that, but that understanding the all too crucial human element in the security realm means that the decision makers with regard to policies, procedures, designs, technology, every aspect of it, need to know something about other things besides what they're expert in. There should be partnerships in-house or brought in externally, as the case may be, to make everything much more robust. Otherwise, it is a form of unwitting technical debt and negligence, part of security professionals, even though they're working really hard to do everything that they think needs to be.
So do you think, just to be more practical to the audience, what is the first hire outside technical people that you think needs to be added to the team that will act almost like a force multiplier? What are the skills of that person? Who is that person? Is it a marketer? Is it a security awareness manager? Is it, because a lot of times people that do the security awareness are just, the existing team, and they're just hitting send on the campaign and they're trying to fish people. So who would, like if I need to advertise on Indeed or whatever, what is that role?
Look, my starting point for any piece of work is understanding what the problem is. Consider it a diagnostic phase. So, if you're hitting send on a campaign without first understanding what is the problem that you're actually trying to solve, other than some kind of universal cluster of problem sets in which, there are vulnerabilities and there are exploits, people are making mistakes and hackers are constantly trying to get in, then whatever it is that you're designing, whatever fixes you come up with, are probably going to have some inadequacy to it. You haven't fully understood yet what it is that you're trying to solve for. So, I think at the risk of turning this webinar, at least in response to this particular question, some form of marketing platform for my own consulting services, I would say a team should include some consultation with someone who knows, like me, who knows something about why are people doing this, or how do you think about how you can manage the human ecosystem involved, and what are the dynamics in team building, how do you incentivize people to be empowered and impassioned about being invested in and engaged by what it is that you would like them to do. How do you reduce, as Amy was talking about, the all too present tendencies for people to be punitive or shaming, which are degrading to everything that you're actually aiming for, and also end up impeding cognitive ability. So every time you basically call your workforce a weak link or imply that in any way, you're taking a step backwards from your goal. So having somebody who's a part of that early development of the product or the system, whether it's in an organization or a service that's being provided as a third-party vendor to an organization, needs to embed as its DNA an understanding of the human component and not just human user interaction, but like, how do people think? Why are they feeling this way? What happens when it happens? The element of shame that Amy was mentioning is huge. People often don't report or discuss when they've made a mistake or they even think they've made a mistake, no matter how safe the culture is designed to be, because that's a normal human response. You have to be able to design systems that account for normalcy, not an ideal version of human behavior.
I think it comes back to like also the KPIs that people are trying to achieve, and they're trying to achieve either unrealistic KPIs where we want to get to 0 click-through because I don't know, or we want to get down from 4% because of. And I'm telling people, look, it really depends also the templates you're using. Like you're fooling yourself. Like you can make the number go up or down based on how you set up the campaign. It's not the same time every time. People have different vulnerabilities. There are different times where people are more stressed, less stressed. Depends what's happening with the company. So, what are you really measuring? What is success? But Amy, I think you have something to say about that, sort of like a follow up to what Dr. Stein. You were like nodding with your head. Yes, yes. So.
Yeah, if I could take a stab at that. So I think an ideal security awareness team, because that's kind of my area, right? First of all, I think you have to have somebody who understands psychology to a certain extent. So marketers are good at this. Communication people are good at this. So somebody who has that, plus a bit of customer service, is a good skill to have. It also helps if you have somebody who is somewhat technical, at least, so that they can understand the technical stuff. So like, in my ideal world, I would have, like a threat intelligence group that's telling me what's the latest threats going on. Because I'm an engineer by trade. I moved into security, but I'm also a people person. So I'm kind of that weird hybrid. So, I would love to have somebody who's researching those latest and greatest threats and tell me about it. And then I can translate that into common language. Because, let's face it, we in security, we talk geek, right? And it's not a language everybody understands. But, you can talk geek to me. I can translate it into English for everybody else. And I think that's ideal because, I don't necessarily have time to go research all the latest and greatest threats. So that kind of bridge, and if you can't find that in one person, I think having at least one person on your team that does have that ability to communicate to non-technical people is an essential skill. Because what I see often happening is that, the security professionals, they'll speak to, non-security professionals in this really high technical jargon, and they get the dead fish eyes, right? And then like, I don't understand why these users don't understand what they're supposed to be doing, and they get all frustrated. Like, well, because you're not speaking their language, right?
Yeah.
So, and so you need that buffer.
One thing that I go ahead.
We see that often is that the security team's kind of in this ivory tower, and they're dealing with very important things. Security is extremely important, and they look down on users. Obviously, I'm generalizing here. And they think they can solve the problem by throwing technology at it because that's the language that they speak. So we want to stop emails, secure email gateway. That's it, we're done, tick the box. But they don't discuss how emails are going to get through the secure email gateway, and then what? They're going to get into employees, but maybe they'll be filtered out and they'll move into the junk folder. But so we're fine. And then to Dr. Stein's point, employees are going to go into that junk folder and they're going to find the worst emails and they're going to click on them. So I think that human element and combining again, coming back to that same theme of empowering our humans to make the right choices is so critical to this discussion.
Yeah. One thing that go ahead. Sorry.
Sometimes what I hear people say too is like, well, they're not going to understand X, Y, or Z, and it's like, try them. Users are actually a lot smarter sometimes than we give them credit for.
Way more.
It's just the messaging has to be on point, right? So,
yeah. Something that I suggest when I, work with our customers and they're, talking about tips and tricks to improve security awareness in general, I tell them, look, if you have a lot of employees, some of them are content creators probably somewhere. They're creating content on Instagram, on TikTok, on wherever. Reach out to those people. They are very good at communicating. They can make really engaging videos. You don't always have to hire like a professional marketer. Just and that's, by the way, helps to create this ambassador program as well, where you have those different type of people within the company that are helping you. So you don't necessarily, but you have to have somebody that is thinking like that in the security team, that it can be a security awareness manager or whatever, but somebody has to be, um, it starts with caring about this, and not looking down at people and not thinking people are stupid, and reaching out to the team. And I think this is a very exciting role, in my opinion. I think more security people, if they do that, they will gain a lot of knowledge as well, because now you're learning a lot about different scams and what people are doing and psychology, and you get to talk to different departments, and you get to talk to the C-level, and you're involved in managing, processes and people. I hope more people will take that, role, and because the resources are there. As an entrepreneur, I love working under budget because it creates creativity. It forces you to be creative, and I think it's not a lack of budget. It's just like, yeah, tap into the resources that you have. Um,
So
yeah,
Gabby,
and go
yeah,
ahead.
before you go on, I want to add something point that you just made that loops together what Michael and Amy have said. Um, in many regards, if information security professionals think more in terms of education rather than training, the whole perspective and the mindset would be a little bit different. Rather than taking kind of elitist perspective of they're not going to understand or we need to get them to do certain things. If they could think of their work almost as if they were grade school teachers with children, and I don't mean to infantilize professional workforce, but rather to think about how do teachers get kids to want to learn? Because that's really what you're trying to do. You want people who work in an office to understand, learn certain things, to think about strategies for teaching and learning. What's the difference between emergent learning versus procedural learning? What's the difference between auditory and visual learning? How do you get people to be stimulated by ideas so that they're really excited by doing something different rather than just getting them to do something different because otherwise something bad will happen?
And I often like to use the example of, when we learned as children, because one, we all had a childhood, right? So not everybody, if you say, well, you remember when you were in college, not everyone has that experience, right? But everyone understands like what it was like to learn as a child. And that's the time of our life where we were doing pretty much nothing but learning. So I also like to go back to that. Like, so when I'm talking to people, especially when I'm talking to somebody who's knowledgeable and gives me that, like, I can't believe that this person doesn't know this, that they're so dumb. I always like to ask this question. Did you come out of the womb knowing to look both ways before crossing the street? And I usually get the, well, no. Okay, who, you had to be taught, right? It was an experience that you had. Somebody taught you. Well, yeah, okay. Well, if you wouldn't have had that experience, you wouldn't know. These people who you're looking at like, well, I can't believe they don't know. They haven't had the same experience as you. So if you could look at it that way, it brings in a little empathy to those people. And I usually get the aha moment when I explain it that way.
Yeah. Also, a lot of people don't, like you said, don't experience, like they actually experience nothing happened. Like in the day to day, we're not getting it. Maybe we're getting attacked, but we're not losing money every day by, criminals going into our banks and stealing. So we're hearing on the news all this stuff and nothing happens. So we're getting very comfortable with risk. So we think it will be fine. It won't happen to us because we justify the fact that nothing bad happened to us is because we're not a target. And the people in the security team see that all the time. They're seeing the attacks coming in. They're stopping them. So there's a huge gap between what somebody's experiencing on a day-to-day and what the team that is leading this security effort is experiencing. They are like in the battlefield, seeing all those, bullets coming in. Other people are like, I don't see anything.
And
So that's,
even,
I'm sorry, go ahead, please.
and sometimes it's even like, because I talk to people about security, not even just at work. Like I talk about security to anyone who listens. And that's like one of the things I hear not at work is like your cell phones or having apps that listen to you. Well, I have nothing to hide, right? So I say things like, well, so you wouldn't mind if the entire world knows about your conversations about your financial situation with your, spouse. And it's kind of like, well, or other intimate things, you would be perfectly okay with the entire internet knowing about that. And it's like, no. Like, okay, well, some of these apps that you have on your phone are listening to you all the time.
Yeah.
And then that again, those sometimes you have to tie things in together. And I find that even so, personal lives with people and then work, I find that if you can tie these security concepts to that person's life, you get more of those aha moments and they start thinking, which is what I know I want. I want them to think.
Yeah.
I'll go ahead.
Dr. Stein, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say that risk tolerances are an aspect of culture as well. So, if you're in aviation or aeronautics or surgery or, some field in which there really needs to be essentially a zero margin for error, or the acceptable margins for error need to be in micrometers, not, kilometers. What is an acceptable risk won't be tolerated, and it's treated very, very differently. So if you're in an organization that permits some kind of complacency and, lets people, everyone, not just workers, but executives as well, and the board get away with saying something that justifies or rationalizes an inattentiveness to excellence or high standards, you're creating a culture in which certain problems are going to happen no matter what else you try to do to prevent it.
Yeah.
So there has to be an attention to that kind of detail and the creation and upholding of certain kinds of performance standards that are just baked into how people think and behave when they are there, because that's what's expected and it's what's necessary.
Yeah, I agree. This is actually a great point. Risk tolerance is based on culture, which is another reason, why security culture is so important, because you want to sort of unify maybe the risk tolerance. Otherwise, people will do their own risk assessment on everything, and they will think that, oh, so Google is safe because it's the biggest company in the world, right? Or stuff like that. So I think it's important to yeah, just another reason. Actually, I haven't thought about it this way, but I think risk tolerance is definitely, based on culture. Um, one thing that I always say that it can happen to everyone. Well, it almost happened to me, almost, and I'm really aware. Like I'm really aware because that's what we do. So a few days ago, and I posted about it on LinkedIn. A few days ago, I got an email from the regular ones. Somebody logged into your unusual activity, from Microsoft. Somebody just logged in from Spain or wherever to your account. Now I get that, but it landed in my inbox. Okay, usually it lands on my spam, and I open it, and it was to my personal one, not to my Wizer one, and it said Microsoft. Like, it was 100% like no spelling mistakes, nothing. So it was spoofed. And like for a few seconds, I lost a heartbeat, like, damn, like this is like I'm getting into my inbox. I thought it's real. Now and because you think to yourself, like, this is basics, right? Like spam filters, like it was on my Outlook client on my Outlook getting from Microsoft an email, like they should know better to like detect spoof. And obviously I didn't click on anything. I hovered, I saw that it's probably a scam, and I logged into my Outlook. I saw that nothing happened, and later, so I posted about it as well to show people that, anything can be spoofed, right? It can land in your inbox. Don't assume that if you're getting something from Google and it's in your Gmail, then it's from Google. It can be spoofed. Apparently, what happened, some people pointed it out. Outlook spam filters went down for like 9 hours. They were broken or went down, and basically all those, because it was DMARC failed, like it should have not gone through. It, like, you can see the SPF record, everything is like glowing red, shouldn't go in, but it still went through. But I'm saying, even for a moment, after that, it turned to actually, I was happy after like realizing that. I said, oh, I've got a good post to do, and it blew up. So thank you for those criminals for giving me something to post about, right? And to show people. But, the technology fails some. My point is that you can't rely on technology assuming anything. You assume that if you get an email from Google to your Gmail, it's Google. You assume that you're getting, even the biggest companies have downtime, have failures, have stuff, which shows how important it is awareness, because I hear it often, we stop 99% of the phishing emails, but 1% is a lot, right? Like 1% coming through is a lot. So you have to have that, those two things together. Yeah, it just reminded me. It wasn't a question. It was just something
that's yeah, I'd love to just jump from onto that point. Speaking about the human technology kind of alliance, speaking about risk and empowering employees, and then looking at your example. So even in this case, the filters were down, so that's why that email got through. But we see millions of emails, and we see it very often that legitimate looking emails from Microsoft, Amazon, they get through into inboxes. And once that email is sitting in an inbox, despite our best intentions, despite our best training, that the employee is completely vulnerable. It's a ticking time bomb. It's a mine ready to go off. How we solve that problem is, for anyone that doesn't know what Inbox Guard does, is we look at that email, we look at all the technology behind the email, artificial intelligence, and then we warn the user with a traffic light system, so green, yellow, red, if that email is suspicious or not. So in your case, Gabby, that it would have been red straight away. You would have known immediately that email is a problem, and that's a great example where the human and the technology sort of comes together. I'd love to know if anyone else has also had similar scary looking emails like that.
I had one just the other day. I had a new business inquiry from an executive at an international investment bank. It came right into my inbox, not into spam. Everything looked absolutely perfect, but there was just something about it that sort of triggered an alarm bell in my mind. I thought, I'm not so sure. I'm not going to just respond to this. And so I Googled the names on the email. Everything appeared to be fine. Email addresses looked correct. It could have been spoofed, but maybe there was something else that I couldn't discern. And so I decided to just do an end run. I went and found the person on LinkedIn and sent a LinkedIn message and wrote, I got an email from you. If it's from you, I'm interested in the conversation. And if it's not, alert your security team that you've been spoofed. And I got a response that said, it's from me. Let's have a conversation. So, when you have a lot of email traffic or you're distracted, you may not go to that kind of effort. And so, what Michael is talking about in terms of technology interface that could reduce the burden on a user to have to do that kind of diligence would be very, very useful. But nonetheless, you have to be aware, as you were saying.
Amy, you want to say something?
Yeah, I definitely agree that we need that combination of, the human element versus the technology element, and kind of going back to the idea of our phishing campaigns, right? Something else that we probably should do when we're running those campaigns for the clickers, especially those repeat clickers, I think we should follow up with those users and find out why they click because there may be a technology solution. For example,
Mhm.
the email bombs that happen in their inbox. Like I get, 10,000 emails a day and, I can't handle it all. Maybe there is a technology component we could do to help them manage those emails so that they're not trying to manually go through, thousands. And by the way, that's not an exaggeration, because I know when I was on the tech side of the house, getting 1,000 emails a day was a real thing. So nobody can handle that, right? So it's when you're that distracted, you have all these emails, you're trying to get all this work done. It's like, it's easy just to go, okay, just whatever, click, 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 click. So again, I think we need to, instead of that punitive, because I know a lot of people do that, like, oh, you clicked, shame on you, right? Let's find out why. And I think that'll help us with that behavior component, right? Because if we can understand the underlying reasons for their behavior, then we can make changes instead of punishing the person for being human.
I
How
would
do
put
you?
an exclamation point on what Amy just said. When I've done work assisting organizations in constructing a more psychologically sophisticated cybersecurity awareness program, putting in questions that help to probe why people do or don't do certain things is enormously important. Merely noting that they made a mistake or that they did or didn't do something is inadequate in terms of data collection that's really meaningful to developing something that's more robust.
And actually, I have a huge ask in a sense that, with phishing campaigns, one of the things I talked to my team about is like, we've got a report phishing button, but never does that button ask you why you think it's phishing, right? Because there are times when I have done it myself as a security professional, said, yep, this is phishing. And then, it doesn't fit certain parameters. So the automated thing says, no, it's not really. It's like, but, and I have to follow up. But it's like, if I could say why I think this is phishing, then I think that would be helpful, right? And also would help the team know as well, because I think it's easy for us as security professionals to also kind of get set in our ways and then not think about those things that are outside the box. So we could easily also miss a campaign that's more like spear phishing, because it doesn't fit the narrative of what we're used to.
Amy, I'm going to add this as a future request to Wizer. No, it's a good idea. Optional. Why do you think it's phishing? I
Yeah.
think this is, understanding what goes ahead. Yeah. So thank you for that. I'm writing this
You're
down.
welcome.
Meanwhile, if
And if
anybody
you
wants to
check
say
out
anything.
inbox card, you'll see like we give reasons why this is phishing, and it's huge. And it comes back to what you were saying also in terms of the psychology behind these campaigns. We as people, we just get too many emails to really give each one the right amount of thought, and the attackers know that. So they hit us in the middle of, at email 759 for the day. Our guard's down. It's an urgent request, or it seems legit. It all comes back to the psychology that we were talking about right at the beginning of the call.
Yeah.
And we talk about MFA fatigue. There's also email fatigue.
Definitely.
In
Yeah.
many respects, this is a form of psyops. Really, like you need to develop really, really sophisticated counter intelligence maneuvers. And I can't speak from a knowledgeable perspective on what the attackers do in respect of, do they actually have specialists on their teams who are looking at specific ways of exploiting human psychology? Maybe they do. If they do, why aren't the good guys doing exactly the same thing? But if they're not, in other words, if they're merely, so to speak, going on intuition, because there are just so many flaws and so many vulnerabilities, so many ways to deceive or manipulate or coerce or seduce people to do almost anything. And if you throw enough of that against the wall, you're going to get a bunch of people, you're going to get that 1%. There are still ways of actually increasing your success rates on countering that if you really apply deep thinking and expertise around how all of that works.
Yeah. I think there are two questions here. There are a few that I want to give it to the panel. So first of all, one question that's about the spoofing. Yes, it was the actual Microsoft.com domain. There was no spelling mistakes or anything like that. There was no SPF record. The DMARC was failed, but it's still everything like it should not have gone to the inbox like 100%. But because there was a downtime, I guess, on the Outlook filters, it actually went through. But it shouldn't have, but it did. So again, that's why the human element is so important. But there's another question here regarding, I think it's a great question or observation. So considering motivated attackers will target users through their personal communication channels in an attempt to compromise personal devices and then again relationship into the organization and stuff like that, what do you think, guys, is how do we I think there's an advantage here actually to change behavior by teaching people how to be safe at home. But what is sort of your take on this? How do you emphasize? Basically, the question is, how do you emphasize to user base the importance of awareness even when not at work?
Actually, you just touched on my favorite topic.
Yeah.
That's a big thing. Like, people that I work with will. Hopefully, that's the one thing they say about Amy. Amy is very concerned about that. You know how to protect yourself at home. This is my passion, right? So I actually make things available to them, like and a lot of your stuff, Abby. Because like especially your YouTube channel where you have like how to protect your kids. So my thing is how to make it personal. And I find usually like the family is a big like soft spot for people, right? So if I tell you, hey, there's training on how you can keep your kids safe at home, more people are going to watch that, right? Because I need to know that information to keep my family safe. So I like to give people that because my belief is that if you develop good security hygiene for your personal life, you're going to bring those habits to work. So yeah, that's huge for me.
And I would say the other way around. So like at work, if we can encourage employees to, learn and to act in the right way, to create the right habits, they'll then take those home. So what I love about tools like Inbox Guard and Wizer is that it's in the user's face. It's something that they see, it's something that they interact with, and it subtly changes their behavior over time. Compare that to some of behind the scenes tools like a secure email gateway. The user doesn't even know that they're being protected or trying to be protected. So, I think we've got a very important role to play in the workplace to educate, encourage the right behaviors, get in front of our users, and they then take those back into their personal lives and help protect themselves and their family.
Yeah. I think go ahead. You wanted to say?
Yeah, well, post-pandemic, the answer to what's the difference between work and home is harder to delineate. But in any case, there really is no true difference other than the fact that one is in one location and the other is in another. People are people. You may have a social persona that is part of your professional self, but you're still who you are. If you get in a car, do you think differently about how to drive if you're on a business trip rather than when you're by yourself or if you have your family with you? No, there are certain safety measures and risk precautions that you take as a part of being a good, safe driver. Why would that be any different? And ultimately, computers and handheld devices are communication devices. So, we have access to different aspects of ourselves because we're interacting with the world. And so it engages in all of these psychosocial domains and aspects of being in the world that are unique. And really, there, to Amy's point, and to what Michael is saying, there should be no distinction. The fact that organizations are still actually working to make this point means that there's still quite a ways to go to get people to understand that what they're doing at work and what they're doing at home are really no different.
I hope a lot of people hear this, but companies, vendors, we have an opportunity to make security a benefit and not a chore, and it's a big opportunity, it's a huge opportunity. We can impact people's life, so give every employee the tools, in my opinion, to go home and become an ambassador of security awareness and make this a basic life skill for their kids, for their parents, for themselves, for their spouse, whatever, because it is a benefit. And I don't know how we got to a point, to be honest. And that's actually, I'm going to be setting a little bit wiser, but that's why I started Wizer. I was upset that it doesn't make sense that security awareness is considered a chore or a compliance task. Like we should want that, right? Like we want our kids to learn to drive before giving them the keys to the car, right? Like we want that. It's not a chore. As responsible parents, we care. So we should care about teaching our kids about cybersecurity. We should care. And and like you said, it doesn't matter if you drive to work or on to vacation. Like you want to be safe regardless. It doesn't matter where the destination is. You want to be safe. And security culture starts at home, then you bring it to work, but the work has the opportunity. Companies have the opportunities to make a huge impact in their employees' life. They just need to change their mindset about approaching this. And we're still, there's still, that's why we were talking today about, what skills are missing and stuff like that. And I think there is a lot of skills that are missing, and it's just like, it upsets me to some degree, that it's a missed opportunity. That's anyways, I hope companies will hear that. So how do you know? Go ahead.
Follow up talking about the skills gap that we have in security.
Yeah, there's a lot of, we need more diversity but that's like for a whole new webinar that we can have.
Right.
Yeah. So last question before we wrap up. How do you know that we're like, how do you consider like what success looks like? Like let's say we've done everything good, and like how do we know? Because it's is it tangible? Like how do we know that security culture is working? Like how do we go to our board and say, hey, now security culture is much better now than it was ever? Like how do you do that? Anyone, like, guys?
I think you should start with identifying what behaviors are important to the organization as far as security is concerned. Need your executive team to help decide that, because they're the ones who ultimately decide if you succeeded or not, right?
Yeah.
So they be part of that conversation of like, well, what behaviors do we want to see, and get that outlined. And then you plan on, okay, well, how am I going to impact those behaviors? I think ultimately that's that's the most mature that you could get. In the meantime, if you're just starting out, you do have to kind of start with the small things. Like most people just do start out with the phishing and check to see like if people are, clicking or reporting. But again, it's like, well, what are you doing to encourage or discourage, those behaviors? But yeah, I think, again, starting with what behaviors do you want to see, and how are you going to get those to change?
Gotcha. Anyone else?
Yeah, I'll jump in next maybe. Just how do we measure success? We see it every day. Being kind of the tech representative here, we every day see hundreds of attacks that we stopped, that our technology stopped, and there's nothing more rewarding than that. And that's something that you can take to your board and say, look at this is the consequences, this is the ROI right there. And like we said, we're seeing the attacks getting more sophisticated. We in turn are forced to be more sophisticated ourselves, and we literally seeing those results every single day. And I think, just having these kinds of conversations is super important as well, raising that awareness, making sure that we all know what we're facing, the breadth of the problem, but also where the solution lies. So all of that is super, super important.
Dr. Stein?
I would add that success in this space is often defined as nothing happening, and nothing is difficult to measure tangibly as something. So, what you were just saying, Michael, is really interesting. I would hope that perhaps it's not just the board that sees what gets protected, but everyone, and to enable everyone involved to really be stakeholders in understanding what they can do besides relying on what IronVest can do, so that they know that creating nothing is a big something that they contributed to.
One of the things that I usually suggest, some of them are a little bit more soft, but they're helpful. When there is security culture in the company, you would probably want to see more people coming to you from the get-go when starting projects and saying, "Hey, security team, I." So it's not an after, it's not the security team coming to them and saying, "Why didn't you do this secure? Why didn't you think about that?" The fact that people are coming to you in general, um, just count the amount of tickets or the amount of cases or the amount of help people are coming to the security team and requesting for help. Another thing that I would suggest is like actually count the amount of times people are talking or asking for help about their family. What do you think is a good password manager? What is a good this? What is a good that? Whatever, whatever tool, VPN, shouldn't I? Like those are the soft things where people are coming to you, being proactive, that I think that are a good indicator that something is changing. Some of the customers we work with have Slack channels or team channels, where you see engagement over there and people are posting like scams that they've got. They share with others, look at what I got. Some of them are funny, so they're sharing it for just for fun. Look at this. This is like ridiculous, and people are commenting. So just having those internal social media type of channels, is another way to measure success. So not everything has to be like click rate and report rate. It's not like this magic number. If this goes down, we're good. If this goes up, we're good. There's a lot of soft indicators, and you can feel them and you can see them. And even without measuring, you can see just how active the Slack channel is. And you can be like, look at this. People are like joining. I actually have one company that I spoke with which is really cool. What they've done, they allowed people to opt in, listen good, to opt in to get more phishing simulation. They said the basic phishing simulation is for everyone, but if you want the hard ones, you should opt in, you know? And then we're going to attack you. Like, we're going to send you some hard stuff. Let's see you. And a lot of people opt in, a lot of people, because they gamified it, they made it optional. Again, that's another thing that you can, so many ways to like gamify and measure and see people care and people want, and people are asking, give me something harder, like people actually want to be attacked almost.
Do they
I wouldn't say
reward them?
Go ahead.
They reward them some way? Is it like whoever, like a game
Some
you
of them, it's soft rewards. Honestly, they give them like the Fisher or the Defender of the Month or Defender of the Week, and yeah, and they're actually giving like certificates. I don't think they're giving like money. I don't think so. It's mostly like recognition, and that's another thing where you recognize, people in town hall meetings and stuff like that. Again, you bring that into the culture. Anyways, that's sort of like some of the inputs that I have from working in this space and things that I've saw that work well. So let's wrap up. If anybody have like final thoughts before we yeah, end this webinar, go
Just in
ahead.
terms of getting in touch, I think like, how can we be contacted if anyone wants to chat to us afterwards about any of the points that have come
So
up?
what we're going to do, yeah, we're going to have a write-up. So this is recorded, and we're going to have a write-up, and we're going to include all the details of the speakers. If you want to say it now, you can go ahead, each one of you, up to you guys. But any like final thoughts, and we have about 1 minute left, but we'll probably go like 3-4 minutes over.
I would say that this is a great conversation. I really enjoyed it, and I hope that viewers and listeners have enjoyed it and learned as well. And I would offer that this is kind of a model for what I was talking about earlier in our discussion about the multidisciplinary nature of cybersecurity. That not everything needs to be about sitting down with pencil and paper or CAD software or whatever to design a system. A lot of it is people coming from different perspectives with different talking to each other around what do you know, what has happened, what do you think, and really brainstorming in a productive, constructive way that helps to address issues that are really, really like astronomically complicated. So many of the problems exist because there's a tendency to oversimplify, and that just doesn't work.
Cool. Thank you. Michael?
Yeah, amazing to be talking the same language, and I think everyone that's joined us on the call as well, we all understand the problem, we all understand how it needs to be solved. Looking forward to the write-up. If anyone wants to get in touch with me or with iInvest, it's michael@iinvest.com. Happy to continue the conversation and looking forward to many more.
Cool. Amy?
I would just say that security culture is key.
Yep. I would, yeah, just to add to that, something that I, say often, yeah, security culture eats strategy for breakfast. You have the right culture, you have the DNA, people care, things will work better. It's,
Yeah, I have a similar line. It's like culture eats training for breakfast. That's how
yeah.
the people I talk to are like, oh, security, it's about training. And it's like, no, it's more than training.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay, cool. So thank you very much for taking time to join us and share with the audience your thoughts about this topic. And until next time, take care and goodbye. Bye bye.